Sali, hoi zusammen und grüezi miteinander. Welcome to the 15th edition of the Swiss-German Initiative. My name is Fabian. Before we begin, as usual, some administrative information. And to appease the YouTube algorithm, please leave a like and subscribe. Well, you know the drill. So, if you want to participate in the parliament, simply comment in the respective post on our Schweizerdeutsch. The link is in the description. And Alex, I didn't forget you. I simply didn't manage to find the time to prepare. And yeah, I reached my next milestone. I finally have a hater. So, dude or dudette, if there's anything wrong with the show or what I said, I gladly invite you to the show so you can tell me where I'm wrong or what I did wrong. And the only caveat there is you have to do it in Swiss German. So, yeah, let's start with the show. As I mentioned in a previous episode, we don't do the genitive, the preteritum, and the EU around here. And while I explained how to get around the genitive and the EU, the preteritum is still missing. So let's get to it. So, how to get around the preteritum, i.e., the imperfect in Swiss German? Simply, in typical Swiss fashion, we don't do imperfect, we only do perfect. So, and we build the perfect in most cases by using two verbs, haben and sein, in Swiss German ha und sie, and then we we use the participate perfect. The next way is if there is a modal verb used, you use ha, the modal verb, in infinitive, and the full verb, so the main verb, in the infinitive form. Modal verbs are willen, müssen, dürfen, können, sollen, mögen. And just as a tiny side note for the pronunciation, here, dürfen is like brötle. This isn't a e, it's not a ö, it's in between. It's ö. It's dürfen, like brötle, and so forth. There are a couple of words which use this e ö combination, so just keep it in mind for the pronunciation that it isn't a strict e, it's not dürfen, it's dürfen. Anyway. And the last case will be with Bewegungsverben. So there are two Bewegungsverben, which are go and go, so coming and going. You create it with using sie, so sein in German, then a go or go, then the full verb in the infinite form, and there are certain dialects or certain forms where you add an additional gange or go. So you actually double the go or coming. In Zürichdeutsch, you don't really use the additional gange or go. There are other dialects which use them, but I know how to imitate other dialects, but I don't speak them, so I'm not sure when and how it's actually used. So let's start constructing this. To do this, we need to be able to conjugate haben and sein, so ha und sie in Swiss German in presence or in the presence form. So let's get through this list for sure. So ich ha, du hast, hat, sie hat, es hat, wir hand, ihr hand, sie hand, sie hand. And then with sein, so sie, ich bin or bin, du bist, isch, sie isch, es isch, wir sind, ihr sind, sie sind, sie sind. And at this point, just a small reminder. I Googled this, so I don't have to write everything myself. So I was lazy and simply clicked on AI because I thought, yeah, the info must be out there, so I spare myself the time for adding it and so forth. So I simply can copy and paste it. But Google AI is not capable of Swiss German. It produces combination which do not exist. It adds examples which are wrong and so forth. So don't use AI. Simply use regular sources which are checked by a person. Anyway, I left one example in because it's a special case, but the rest is or should be corrected. I hope I didn't forget one point. So we have schwache, i.e. regelmäßige Verben, which in German you build by adding the prefix ge and the suffix t, which in Swiss German would be the prefix only g and the suffix t or et. And the rule where you have to add the g in front of it's if there is a vowel and the following consonants, so F, H, K, L, M, N, R, S, C, H, and W, they work with the suffix G. With everything else, you don't use it. Now, keep in mind, this is specific to Zürichdeutsch. In other dialects, it could be that you use the G in front of consonants, consonant, which I didn't mention here. So yeah, this is specific to the dialect. Another weird exception is the double G. So let's have a look at the examples and then I show it. It's like from moche, you get gmocht, loche, glocht or glochet, bestellt, bestellen, bestellt. In the example gmocht, it's gmocht, but you don't really pronounce in that way. It's described that it's a long G or doubled, but what's actually happening is that the G slightly moves the position. So instead of ich has gemacht, you get a ich has gemacht. So the G moves to the husk instead of gemacht. And it's certainly not pronounced ich has gemacht, which sounds like a stuttering and like Swiss German. Next, we have the starke or unregelmäßige Verben, where in German you have the GE in front of, then you have the Verbstamm with the Vokalwechsel, so changing the vowels. I get to this in Swiss German, and you add the EN in the end. In Swiss German, it's kind of the same, but you have a couple of exceptions. So you add the G in front of, which applies with the same rules as with schwache Verben. And then the vowel change. So if it's an E, you get a U. If it's double E, so long E, it's get shortened. U, E, and I, E, or U, E, and I, E will be a O. And in the last example, if there is a IDE, the D will be a TT. So, or a strong T, let's call it like that. And as a suffix, you either have an E, NGE or GE, and an NDE. For this, there isn't really a rule. It's for words which originally had those endings, but were shortened. But fortunately, there aren't a lot of them. So let's have a look at them for short. Oh, I forgot the examples. So you have ga, which is one of those short verbs, so Kurzverben. And here, as an example, I put in the G in front because it would be one of those double G things. So ich bin gegangen, which either ich bin gegangen or ich bin gegangen. So you put the G in the middle. Trinken, trunken, schneiden, geschnitten. See the double T there. So here we have those 13 Swiss short verbs. So Schweizer Kurzverben. Another example of Swiss efficiency. But yeah, I will read them in the infinitive in sentence in present and the participle to in perfect. Ich bin am Gehen, tut kommen, sie ist am Stehen, wir tun's la, tut schla, sie ist am Tun, ich ha, wir sind am Sie, sie ist am Gseh, tut ziehen, wir tun näh, sie tun gä und ich tu stehen. Now in the perfect. Ich bin gegangen, ist gekommen, sie ist gestanden, wir haben's la, sie haben geschlagen, hat da, sie haben ka, wir sind gsi, sie haben gesehen, hat gezogen, sie hat genommen, hat gegeben und wir sind gestanden. The third version would be if there is a prefix be, ent, ver, or a suffix ire. Then there is no g prefix. Which again would be the rule, but there is an exception. And you have the same vowel change as with starke Verben. So you have verlieren is verloren, betrügen, betrogen, and here's the exception. Studieren in Swiss German means two things: thinking, or as the case is, intense thinking, and studying at the university. Funnily enough, if you're studying for an exam, you wouldn't say you are studieren for something, you would learn for an exam, not studying. And now here I have no idea if this is the case for different dialects or where it comes from, because I heard it in both cases, studiert and gstudiert, in the same dialect. And weirdly enough, I would use it in some cases with G, in some cases not. So if I would say, ich habe darüber nachgestudiert und gestudiert und ich bin einfach nicht auf den Punkt gekommen, I would use the G. But if I only would say, ja, ich habe darüber nachstudiert, I wouldn't use it. And it's both in the perfect. It's it's the same case, but in some I use it, in some I don't. So yeah, it's interchangeable. And just keep in mind that studieren means studying at the university or thinking and not studying for an exam, if you're an English speaker. Let's get through some examples. So in the first version, where you use ha or sie with the participle to or participle perfect, you have in the present, ich lese ein Buch, so I read a book. In the perfect, ich habe ein Buch gelesen. Macht 50. 50 is Swiss German for homework. And I think it's simply a shortened version of Aufgaben, but I'm not sure how the set it got in there, but it is what it is. So, macht 50, he does his homework. Hat 50 gemacht. Wir trinken einen Kaffee, so we drink a coffee. Wir haben einen Kaffee getrunken. Du kaufst ein Geschenk, you buy a present. Du hast ein Geschenk gekauft. Wir laufen an den See. We go to the lake. Wir sind an den See gelaufen. Sie geht die Stege runter. She falls down the stairs. Sie ist die Stege runtergefallen. Reist auf Amerika aus. He's leaving the country to go to America, so departing. Ist auf Amerika ausgereist. Ich blieb daheim. I stay at home. Ich bin daheim geblieben. Next one will be the ha with the two infinitives where the middle one is the modal verb, Modalverb. Er will es Auto kaufen. He wants to buy a car. Er hat das Auto wollen kaufen. Du musst heute arbeiten. You have to work today. Du hast heute müssen arbeiten. Ihr dürft dort sein. You're allowed to be there. Ihr habt dürfen dort sein. Ich soll den Salat essen. I should eat the salad. Ich habe den Salat sollen essen. Sie will die Küche putzen. She wants to clean the kitchen. Sie hat die Küche wollen putzen. Oh, ups. Wir müssen die Richtung wechseln. We have to change direction. Wir haben die Richtung müssen wechseln. Du kannst gut tanzen. Du hast gut können tanzen. And the last form, the sie, so sein, plus go, plus the infinite. And then depending on the dialect, you add an additional gange or go. So in the present again, ich ga go posten. So I go shopping. Ich bin go posten gegangen. So in Zürichdeutsch you can easily just say ich bin go posten. You don't have to put the gange in the end. But it works as well in Zürichdeutsch and other dialects. You have to use it. Und der ist für dich, Madame. Just as a side note, where does this ich gang go posten actually come from? So posten, this is a small problem in English because there isn't a one-to-one translation for a poste. Poste is a position where something is, or some people are, or so forth, or a position in a scavenger hunt, or in schools. You have something like which is called station learning or station to station learning. So one station would be a poste, and so forth. So in the early days, it was common to send your kids to get the groceries or to get specific things. So you send them to the specific point, which would be the poste. So you send them go poste. And this is why it's still in the language. And as well, the post itself, it comes from the same word, is the position where something is stored or you have to go to get something and so forth. Next would be er geht go schlafen. He's going to sleep. Er ist go schlafen gegangen. Wir gehen go baden. We are going to take a bath or we are going to the swimming pool. Wir sind go baden. Gegangen. Sie gehen go wandern. They are going to take a hike. Sie sind go wandern. Gegangen. Sie kommt go helfen. She is coming to help or help out. Sie ist go helfen. Go. Now here it's a little bit a special case. If you going go posten, go schlafen, go baden, go wandern, it's clear that you're going to do something. So you go there, meaning you actually just use the go. But in the case of helping, you could as well use go, which meaning sie kommt go helfen. Now, in Zürichdeutsch, you probably would always use sie kommt go helfen, but in other dialects, you could as well use go. So instead of she's going to help, she's coming to help. Du kommst go schauen. You're coming to have a look. Du bist go schauen. Go. Die Kinder kommen go spielen. The kids are coming to play. Die Kinder, oh, I forgot an apostrophe there, sind go spielen, go. And the last one, kommt go essen, ist go essen, go. So, this was it for today. I thought because the last time I did the parliament, this time I would compensate for it and do a strict language class. Weirdly enough, these two episodes took me longer to create than the usual ones, so if not requested otherwise, I'll continue to create the usual Swiss German initiative for the next couple of times. If you have any questions, as usual, simply post them here on YouTube or in the, I say, or sub or Schweizerdeutsch under the post questions with the current date. With that being said, habt eine schöne Zeit, habt Sorge und ciao zusammen.